favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of prior minutes, the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting for January 27th. I understand. So thank you. Mayor Johansson, Councillor Grice, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. On to water matters. First item, or the only item under water matters, is the Gallagher Siphon Project update. The Director of Operations report is attached. I'll turn it over to Mr. Goodsell.
Thank you, Chair Schwarzenberger. Trying to bring it up. All of a sudden now my pad's not working. Just had it up.
I can lend you mine.
Not mine.
Okay.
Mine did the same thing.
What the heck? It's loading, it keeps loading, it won't. Yes. Perfect, thanks.
You just have every now and then you gotta shut down.
Okay, so council or staff received an update from True Consulting about the Gallagher Siphon. I know that council wanted to hear some updates. It was circulated through email through the CFO. What was it, about a week and a half ago? And we thought we'd just bring it to the committee for information, and that way it gets out into the public a little bit more so they understand what things have been done or what we're working on and what's coming up. So True basically outline a bunch of different areas. They talk about the project design and what we designed to, what design we were going with, from the 8-foot to the 5-foot and low head siphon. And they've also given a breakdown about the environmental, what stages we're at, different things, different permits that they've applied for, what's still coming up and what they're working on. The archaeology is another main area that they're working with, and the OIB's involved in that. They're archaeologists. So that's ongoing, and a majority of that's going to be done during construction.
Sorry to jump in here. Phase 2 of the archaeological. I see one reserve pre-construction, non-permit AIA, phase 1, phase 2, field work spring, summer. Permit application won't be until the winter. Will not the project be virtually finished?
Phase 2 says permit application winter 2020. Field work reporting will be this fall. So the construction of the project's in different phases. It'll start this year.
So is winter 2020, is that now or?
They've started it now, but it won't be completed until, they said, fall, winter. So I'm guessing maybe next February, March 2021. They're calling it phase 2. I don't have a breakdown what phase 1 is, or on a drawing, or phase 2. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to show you there.
Because are we not planning on starting this project this fall?
That's correct.
So it just seems strange that we would be applying for permits after the project is virtually done.
Well, the project goes to 2022 in April.
It does. It's for a certain segment of the project. So they've broken down, if you look at the stations, when it says 0 plus 880 to,
Yeah.
it's just for different sections. So during those construction stages, that's when they have to have somebody out there working with the contractors, right? Just to make sure that there's nothing in the ground. If there is, they deal with it right then and there. Land tenures, those have, I think that we still need to finish our land tenure statutory right away with the OIB.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so. I think everything else is on schedule and okay. Engineering design, they are designing, I had a discussion with Steve Underwood when we were talking about the low head siphon design for the building, just last week. So they're working on those details. And it's anticipated that they're gonna go out for negotiate a request for proposals. And that's anticipated to go out May and into June. So I'm sure it'll be out for a certain amount of time to give everybody an opportunity to filter through and provide us a proposal who's interested. It should be awarded in July 2020 and anticipated to start in November. They've also listed some of the things that are going to be happening, activities. We are going to be clearing some trees on the Klein property that we've negotiated with them. Clearing some brush on the OIB sensitive areas. And True's also talked to the OIB and they have started to set up, they're going to be setting up meetings with them every 2 weeks to make sure everything's on track and there's no sudden delays or anything missed. And there was another thing that I just thought of. Were there any questions so far?
First of all, CAO had her hand up a minute ago. Did you have a question?
No, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to indicate that the Gantt chart does show the phases, the plan start and end for some of the dates that were being questioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mayor Johansson.
I'm just gonna ask if you're gonna do a pre-qual on that RFP.
I am unsure if they're gonna do that or not.
Just that it's a pretty significant project and you just wanna make sure who's ever bidding on it
is capable of doing it,
has
yeah.
the financial resources to do it. And
I'm not as familiar with this style of RFP, but they have been using it in other places, so I'd have to pick Steve's brain about that a little bit more.
yeah, just be good to know. I've been through one at the Kelowna airport where they brought on a master service agreement there, so, but still it was pre-qualified before anybody started.
Mm-hmm.
They started accepting it, because then how do you score people? I think somebody could come in with a really low price. I know it's an RFP with a scoring system, but sometimes it's nice to have.
Yes,
Level
just,
playing field
you wanna
before you
know
start.
what the company's done,
Yeah.
their references, we've always asked for those things on
Yeah.
larger projects. But the pre-call, I'm not 100% sure.
Councilor Mattis.
Maybe Sean or the mayor could maybe explain better what an NRFP is, and negotiate.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question, is what's the difference between negotiated and just a
And just a
regular
regular
RFP?
I think that the design's done to a certain percentage, and then they put proposals forward on how they can complete the project and what the end result, with meeting your end result and everything else. It gives companies a little more flexibility, I believe, instead of us telling them exactly what to do. I think it gives, you can expand on that.
Yeah, well, that's a typical RFP right there, but a negotiated RFP, you have a meeting with each of the proponents that you shortlist after.
Oh, that's right, yeah, that's
That,
right.
and then you have a discussion about what you like and don't like about the proposal, and then they have the opportunity to submit a second proposal, which gets evaluated.
You can
And pricing
renegotiate.
can change after the first proposal. Sometimes it's a give and take on, maybe they aren't understanding exactly what's going on or what the expectations are, depending on the type of contract you're looking for. But it's a couple step process.
But it's still as detailed as to, move X number of yards of dirt and.
Oh,
it's-
yeah.
has that level
Oh,
of
yeah,
detail.
yeah, I mean, some of those quantities don't change
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless there's a absolutely totally new technology that they can prove that would work, and probably not in this case.
You can look at their subs, you can look at anything and say, I don't like this sub,
Can we get somebody else?
You know, you can get somebody else, so you have an option to really fine tune the proposal, and gives them an opportunity to come back with a different price.
I believe they just recently did that for one of the larger projects on the Soyuz. They did it that way and they said it worked well. Yeah.
Any further questions or comments? Thank you. We'll move on to Business 1, Community Child Care Planning Program. The Director of Development Services report is attached, and I'll pass it over to Mr. Houle.
Thank you, Chair Schwarzenberger. So on November 12th, I took a report to Council to get a resolution that that Council support the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen grant application to the UBCM Community Child Care Planning Fund. So we've met with the other municipalities and we put forward the application to UBCM, the grant application, and UBCM has come back saying that the Town of Oliver resolution was not detailed enough. So all this is just we're looking for an updated resolution, and basically it needs the wording in there. So it's one thing that the council supports the grant application, but we need to also say that the RDOS is supported to apply for, receive, and manage the grant funding on the Town of Oliver's behalf. So that's the purpose of this report, is just to update the resolution with that language in there. So the idea is the RDOS will be applying on behalf of the municipalities, and we just need to provide a bit more information in the resolution and forward that on to the applicants. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mattis.
I will, for the purpose of discussion, I will make the motion that council support the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen grant application to the UBCM Community Child Care Planning Fund, and that the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen be supported to apply for, receive, and manage the grant funding on behalf, I think the word should be, oh, okay, it's at the end, sorry, on the Town of Oliver's behalf.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Price. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Business 2, Transit Future Action Plan. The Director of Development Services report is attached, and again, Mr. Houle.
Thank you, Acting Chair. So the South Okanagan-Similkameen Transit Future Plan was adopted by the RDOS Board in April of 2015. So this plan guides and prioritizes future investment in the transit system, sets ridership targets, identifies key transit corridors, and identifies the fleet, service hour, and infrastructure needed to support the transit network. So the Transit Future Action Plans are conducted every 5 years following this process. And this is to refine those transit priorities and to guide transit decision making over the next 5 years within the transit system. So given that it's been 5 years since the actual plan was adopted, BC Transit is facilitating the implementation of the 2020 Transit Action Future Plan. And that's with collaboration of municipalities in the regional district. So with this, the first phase of consultation for the plan will begin in early March with an onboard customer service satisfaction survey to gather feedback directly from the users of the system. The second phase of consultation will begin in early April, which will include open houses throughout the communities in the area. So an open house will be held on April 1st at the Oliver Community Center from 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. An online survey will also be included in the consultations for phase 2. So just a bit of a background on the transit system in Oliver. So currently Route 40, which is from Osoyoos to Penticton, runs 2 times a day with pickup in Oliver at 7:30 in the morning and 12:50 p.m. from the Kootenay Co-op. So there's 2 stops within Oliver, the Kootenay Co-op and the Oliver Hospital. And these buses return later in the afternoon, or later in the morning and the afternoon. So just some of the questions that'll come up during the consultation that BC Transit will be looking for feedback on is, for example, should a local Oliver service be created? What would that route look like? Where would the stops be, and at what frequency? Should services be increased between Oliver and Osoyoos? Should the Route 40 bus, so the one from Osoyoos to Penticton, be increased to 4 trips rather than 2 during the week? Should a Saturday trip be included? These are questions that they'll be looking for answers on. So basically the purpose of the Transit Future Action Plan is to identify items and changes and prioritize them moving forward. So any implemented items will go to the budgeting process at that time with the respective councils. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gould. Sir, you can only ask a question at the end of the meeting, and I'll be glad to hear your question at that time. Council, any comments, questions? Councilor Grace?
Thank you, Worship. I guess, to Mr. Gould, do you know what the return times are? I'm just wondering if the current service is conducive to kind of a 9 to 5 work schedule.
Yeah, I mean, we have the return times in, I guess I didn't provide it in this report, but like I said, there's one later in the morning, so the idea is that it goes to Penticton at 7:30, and then it returns around 10:50 in the morning, so there's only a little bit of time there. And then the one in the afternoon returns at about 4 o'clock. So, yeah. So at this stage, it's just sort of an update to council, but all of these items, that's the whole purpose of this Transit Future Action Plan, is to go over, is the service doing enough? How can we increase it? Yeah, so that's what will be discussed during consultation.
And to the Director of Development Services, so you can get on the early bus in and take the late bus back if you wanted to spend all day in Penticton, is that correct?
Yeah, for sure.
CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do believe that there's been some adjustment to the times of the bus due to the fact that it will meet up to go to Kelowna as well, because there's a bus leaving Penticton to get up to Kelowna.
Thank you. Councilor Mattis.
I know this is kind of a roundabout question, and I don't know whether Sean would be able to answer at this point. As part of our budget deliberations, we left a lot of money on the table with some consideration regarding a vac truck. And the reason I'm wondering what the status of that is because it's occurred to me after budget discussion that we may have missed a few items that we could have looked at if we're not doing the vac truck. One of them being an improvement to that area behind or along Co-op and Kootenai for a bus shelter for this bus route. I know it has been requested before, but it's never made it onto the Public Works capital improvement agenda. So it's kind of tied together. I know we're waiting for some answers on the back truck, and that may, depending on those answers, may lead to council coming back and adjusting the budget. I just thought I would throw that out there, that it's something we should be considering as part of this. Putting the bus shelter there and maybe where the two stops are, with schedules and everything else.
Mr. Goodson.
We are working on a business case for that. That's coming to the next council meeting. So we'll give you an update on the back truck.
Great. Okay, any further?
Just as a follow-up to that, I don't know whether council would support it or what would be required, but it would be nice to get that on the bus shelters on Public Works agenda for future capital.
CAO.
Thank you,
How
Worship.
that process.
Diane, the corporate officer, has provided me with an email from June of 2019. Councillor Grice had inquired about a bus shelter, and it indicates here BC Transit shelters cost in the range of approximately $20,000, with the municipal share being approximately $11,000 to $13,000. So it is in concert with BC Transit having the
So
shelters.
we could do 26 and get us 2 shelters.
Well, if
roughly.
we're not doing a back truck, we've got
Yes.
a lot of money sitting there that
Yes.
we should put some of it to good work.
Okay, well, great, well, we'll look forward to that report at the next meeting. Any further comments on this item? And this is just for information, I take it? Do we need a motion to receive, or we don't need a motion to receive? I'm getting head shaky. Maintain. So on to business 3, SILGA Resolutions. The corporate officer will give us a verbal update. Ms. Vakovich.
Thank you, Chair Schwarzenberger. At the last meeting of council, there was a discussion on SILGA Resolutions. It was left that council could advise myself with any potential resolutions that they wanted to bring forward to the SILGA convention. To date, I haven't received any, so I was just, as a follow-up to council, to determine whether or not there were any resolutions at all to be brought forward to SILGA. The deadline for submissions is the 28th of February.
Thank you. Any? Okay, well, I'll just leave it to members of council. If you do come up with anything, you have 4 days to get them into the corporate officer, and possibly she can send them out by email, and we can kind of give it a yay or nay that way. All right, nothing further. We'll go on to public question period. Sir, you had a question. Please step forward to the mic and state your name and your address.
Hello, I'm Basil Baker. My address is 499 Gamay Court. Oliver, a resident here for 18 years. I'm here regarding bus transportation.
Okay.
I travel for buses, the Greyhound to the coast. As we sit here, it doesn't exist any transportation without much difficulty getting to Vancouver or anywhere on the coast. I travel the buses. Yes, there's 2 buses each way, number 40, from here to West Kelowna and into Kelowna. But that bus does not connect with the E-bus. And the E-bus has nothing to do with BC Transit, but it's running, I've travelled it, it's a very efficient service. But the BC Transit buses don't connect. Most people in South Okanagan want to go to the coast, and you can only fly for $220 plus baggage, one way. Yes, there are 2 buses. Some run on Monday, I think. I've got all these different schedules. It's very complicated. This is really complicated, all these schedules. But I'd like to say, I'll give you an example here. The bus leaves Osoyoos. Well, it leaves the hospital here at 7:38. It arrives Penticton at 8:25. Leave Penticton at 9:08. Arrives West Kelowna. Am I right in here? Sorry. Arrives West Kelowna at 10:05 to transfer to the E-bus to go to Vancouver. The E-bus leaves at 9:25. You're stuck in West Bank.
Right.
There is another bus later in the day, but it's something like 17 o'clock, 5:45 is the next bus on an E-bus to Vancouver.
Well, I would tell you that I have heard this from other residents, and I'm sure the other members of council have too. And we would certainly ask BC Transit to try and link those schedules together. Director of Operation or Development Services, sorry.
Well, I think it's up to, excuse me, I think it's up to BC. E-bus has got a fixed schedule. It starts off at the airport. That's where the turnaround is in Kelowna.
Yes.
They do not have a drop-off stop, bus stop downtown to connect with the BC Transit bus stops. And is it Queens, the terminal, the downtown Kelowna? Queensway? I don't know Kelowna.
It is
There's a transportation centre downtown, it's Queensway.
Yeah.
Anyway, E-bus does not stop downtown. There's certain rules and regulations with transit or buses where they can stop, alight, departing passengers and boarding in the city. So the E-bus terminal is the airport. And that's another difficulty too. But passengers coming flying into Kelowna, they have to get on a BC Transit bus to get downtown, or to get to, there's buses that go to West Kelowna, a regular schedule, a very good schedule between Kelowna and West Kelowna.
Okay,
So-
I'm just going to stop you for a minute and get the Director of Development Services on this.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I just wanted to add that through our working group meetings, the E-bus, that concern has come up, and BC Transit's well aware of that. And also they're well aware of the complexity of the schedules, and
Well,
that,
it's-
yeah, so these are things that would be worked on through this process, especially through the open house. That's definitely something that
On
the
April
South
the
Open
1st is open house?
Yeah, on April 1st in the morning. So I would suggest showing up to that, and
Yes.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's really a complex schedule. The E-bus is fixed, I've got it all here.
Yeah.
My thinking is in transportation, why a bus leaves Osoyoos at X time, it arrives at the hospital here at 7:30, 5 or something. Why can't that same bus start at Vesuvius and go all the way to Kelowna? Without having all these stop gas, passengers have to change the bus in Penticton and wait. I've got it spaces an hour. There's one you have to wait 2 hours at Cherry. And the bus leaves northbound at 3:36 at Cherry Grove to go to West Kelowna to meet an e-bus to go to Vancouver. So it's too fragmented. Is that the right word? And I don't know why the same bus, whether it's something to do with the union, a driver can drive from Vesuvius to Kelowna. It's not that far. What is it, 55 miles from here to Kelowna? And 20, yeah. It's not that much distance.
No. Well, we understand your position, and we've all heard from it, and we've spoken. The Director of Development Services is in contact with BC Transit. I would encourage you to come to the April 1st meeting
Yes.
at the community center.
Yes.
And voice your concerns, because that's where they're gonna get some really good input from the community, and hopefully they can change some of these routes and times to make it more efficient to match up with the e-bus.
Well, that's very important, because most people want to go to the coast from the South Okanagan.
Absolutely.
It's a different movie from Vernon to Kelowna. There's a separate system there.
Right.
So that's really all I have to say.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
I think you'd be a good consultant for BC Transit.
Well,
You seem to
you
understand
know,
the problems.
if I might say, if I'm going to lose my driver's license, I'm going to need a bus here. Thank you.
True, thank you. Mr. Goodsell.
I was wondering if I could add something to the Gallagher Lake I forgot to mention to you.
Certainly.
Just so council knows, and we were discussing this with True late last week, we want to do letters up for all the Gallagher residents, because they're going to be impacted the most. And then we're hoping to set a date in the near future and have an open house. And then that way, if they have more questions, they can come to the open house, or if anybody else is interested. So that is on the agenda. So letters would probably go out in March, and then the open house, I'm guessing maybe early April or something like that. We don't know yet. We haven't set any dates.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's important, that they know what's coming.
Yeah. Well, they're impacted the most for sure.
Yeah. Great. Nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Councilor Grice, Mayor Johansson. All in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you, everyone.